I think we all have those moments where we sit down and think, shoulda, coulda, woulda, I should have done this, I could have done that, my life would be different if, or you know what, I really should have done, or I regret, or I this, or I that. In my life, I can't say I really have any regrets. Every moment, everything, every experience that I've had has shaped who I've become today. But something that's been running through my head for already a few years is, did I waste my 20s moving around the world and traveling around the world? Did I make the right choices? And still being in my early 30s, looking at what's ahead, I can't help but think, what are the right choices for me to make? And what are the best choices to set myself up for the future? I'm not going to go into all the different countries and places that I've traveled to, but the two most recent countries that I've called home, Portugal and Italy, have really made an impression on me. And I think it has to do partially also with the culture that I was raised around, or one of the cultures I was raised around, which is Italian, and how important family is, and what you can do in your life to set yourself up for that. Generally speaking, I don't have any regrets. I don't really even believe in regrets. I mean, like I was saying, each moment has made me who I am today. And even with that said, objectively looking at things, I think there are better choices that I could have made with my past. I know a lot of people, especially when they're in their early 20s and even 30s, 40s, whatever, a lot of people just in general have the dream of traveling abroad, jet setting, and going from place to place to place. And I've been blessed to do some of that. I've been blessed to live in different countries. There's a phrase that I've heard over and over and over again from people who are maybe a little older than I am, or a bit older, quite a bit older, saying, wow, that's amazing that you've done this so young, that you made this choice, that you did this, that you made that jump at such a young age, such an early point in life to go and explore and do these things. And while they're saying that, the first thought that always comes into my head is like, yeah, it's cool and all, but like, I didn't do some of the things that people do, like when they are just living in a single place, when they are settled, when they're settling and building their life. I mean, even thinking about things like friendships. Maintaining friendships across the world is not something that's easy for everybody to do. I'm definitely one of those people who's not good at keeping up with friendships with people from here, there, and everywhere. And especially when you go from place to place, and you build up a group of friends, and then you have to leave. And especially this is really more so before social media. Since social media and WhatsApp and all of these things, it's become easier. But it was more so the case years ago that, yeah, you'd make all these friends. You'd create a social circle around you, people that you might even really, really connect with deeply. But then, well, you're on to the next place. And then, well, you're not going to be able to spend the time with them. They're going to have their own things going on. Those group kind of hangouts where everybody gets together or gets together for dinner, or go to the river and hang out, have a barbecue, whatever it might be. Those friend groups and yourself go off in two different directions. I've said this many times, though, about when you leave your country, that there's this kind of like fork in the road, that your thought of the country that you're from is always from that time that you left, especially if you're the type of person that has no interest in going back to your country or just ends up not going back to your country. Your life progresses in one direction, and the people who are still where you left them off are moving forward in another direction. I mean, even sometimes I still see pictures of friends from high school. I mean, okay, this is normal. Everybody goes through this, or maybe not everybody, but a lot of people go through that. They have their friend groups from high school, and they see that maybe their group of friends are still together, but then they went off to college somewhere else, and they're on the other side of the country. I mean, in my case, I'm on the other side of the world. Someone who I knew back in middle school and high school, part of high school at least, got married recently, and I saw pictures from the wedding party, and like these guys that we all just used to hang out. We'd play Halo together, listen to Tenacious D. I mean, all these memories came back, and seeing them grown up now. I mean, it was a trip to see, I have to say. They've all been in roughly the same area since that time. And while they've been doing their thing and living their lives and getting things going for themselves, I've had adventures. And Europe is what became home to me. The place where I knew these guys and that time and that period of my life, it's on the other side of the world. And I don't necessarily even see that place as my home. It's a place that I've lived. But beyond friendships, there's also another factor that kind of comes into play, is where is home? what is that sense of that place that is yours to come back to? And having left the US even way before I turned 20, I have not had that sense of that country being my home for many years now. I've had the sense, of course, like this location where I live now, this is where I live. But is it home? It's hard to say. I mean, for me, though, thinking about it, like I do have a sense of kind of like a hometown. I've mentioned this in previous episodes, at least an Italian hometown. I can't think of maybe a town in the US that would necessarily fit the same for me, but the town where I used to live, Rovigo, that's like my Italian hometown. That's that place that I kind of think about and like, oh, I spent this time in my life there. It wasn't maybe the longest amount of time, but it's that place that I could go back to. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily want to live in their hometown, but they have a special kind of warmth and fuzzy feeling towards it, maybe. Even growing up, we moved around a lot. So moving around as an adult to different countries was maybe not so far off from even part of my childhood, except for maybe moving from state to state or city to city, country to country, taking long flights in between moves. But I see as time goes on that there are those things that maybe I do have a desire for, such as really setting down some roots. And that's something that I see among people who move abroad, that there's a challenge to build, especially in the expat community. The immigrant community, maybe it might be a little bit more different. And I'm making a distinction here because even though I do use the terms interchangeably very often, in this case, I'm going to make a distinction because expats I often see as people who maybe aren't fully committed to living where they're living, and they're thinking maybe they might go back to their country or go to another country. But immigrants are people, in my mind at least, who are really making more of an effort to go through the process and actually make the place their home where they're living. Making those connections to not only people, but places can prove challenging if you are traveling from one place to another place to another place. I mean, even I know of people that do the digital nomad thing and they say, I love this place, but I also love this place. And oh, I just want to have the freedom to go and do these things. And I've had that freedom. I've tasted that. I know exactly what that freedom is like. And having had it, maybe the grass is always greener on the other side, but I don't know if it's the thing that truly brings a person happiness in life. I'm sure of it. I have great memories from different places with different people in different cultures. And of course, this is not your average globetrotter. So we have to talk about different food as well. And the things that I've eaten, the flavors that I have tasted, these are things that I carry with me. And even no matter where I am, I mean, I could be in one country, another country, another country, and I will seek out certain flavors that I'm familiar with based on something that I had in a place that I was living, and I really miss that flavor. Like, for example, I love Middle Eastern rose-flavored desserts. These are one of my favorite things in the world. I know a lot of people don't like rose-flavored things, but to me, it's almost like a comfort food. It's something familiar. It's something that I really, really enjoy. And so even though I don't necessarily have a sense of home per se, at the same time, I've been able to develop a skill that I can make a place my residence, that I can make a place homey, that I can make a place comfortable for me. And I know if I'm thinking about moving to another place that I'm going to be looking for certain things. I'm going to be looking for certain types of stores that carry certain things from around the world that I can have access to, or certain types of restaurants, or certain types of products that I might want to use around my home. And these are all based on the experiences that I've had in the different places that I've been, that there are certain things that I've picked up and habits that I've picked up from my life in these different parts of the world. And so for me to find a place that's truly in line with what I'm looking for actually becomes a lot more complicated, because the amount of places that actually can cater to all of these things that I personally really look for, very few and far between. And then of course you have to balance being able to make a living and doing this and doing that, or even things like taxes. I mean, you have to figure out what can work for you and how it can work for you. This is why I'm talking about that also. When I see people that are looking to move abroad for the first time and their first instinct is to buy something, the advice that I heard from a friend years ago rings always throughout my ears. Don't buy a place for at least 2 years. Rent. See if it can be a place that can really agree with you. Because within those first 2 years, you're going to get to learn a lot about a new location. You're going to learn a lot about yourself in that location as well. Yes, I have these fun experiences, these amazing memories, but there's a trade-off that maybe I didn't build up certain things as much as I could have or as much as I should have. There are maybe things that I didn't focus on as much because maybe every time that I was doing an international move, that would have knocked out whatever savings that I would have had. So there's maybe a certain level of settling down and setting roots that I haven't achieved yet. And yeah, I'm still young. I have plenty of time to be able to do these things. And now looking at this kind of next part of my life, these are things that I'm looking at. And what do I want to incorporate from that time in those different places into this next stage? And no, I have not shown a lot of my travels or what I get up to on camera. I think it's important in this life to have a balance between what you can enjoy and live in the moment. And also, if you are doing something and you have a project or you have work or you have whatever, that you can create that separation and one doesn't take over the other. As some of you may know, I've worked in video production for the majority of my adult life. There have been times where I worked in like a cafe, bakery, or that I taught English, but the majority has been within the video production field. And something that I came to very early on, and this is again very early in my 20s, that I realized that there are moments that have to be lived in the moment without a camera in front of you, without a phone in front of you. And so that's why I haven't shown maybe some of the travels that I've gotten up to here on Not Your Average Globetrotter, and that it's kind of gone in that direction of turning into a video podcast. Don't get me wrong. There will be more travel videos. I have plans. There are fun things coming, so don't worry. Timeline of that still to be decided, but I have plans. But getting back more into what I was talking about here, there's been a trade-off. Making memories, having these experiences in these places, and doing it at the time in my life when I did. I now find myself in a stage of life where a lot of people my age are just starting to do these things. And maybe I've done things a little bit backwards in comparison to some people. I mean, I think there are a lot of people my age who are just now starting to go off and do their big travels and go and explore. And I'm getting to the point where I'm not sure that that's what I want. I mean, even I see friends of mine who are thinking, well, been working my whole adult life so far. It's time that I get out and enjoy. And I agree with that. I really do agree that it's important to enjoy. I think there's a balance that's necessary in life. And this is one thing that I really love about Southern Europe is that you see a different life balance than you see in other parts of the world. But I see myself in contrast with some of my friends that I'm done that. I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm looking to settle and be where I am. And this is no judgment on anybody. I've done some of those things. It's not bad or good or this or that I've done and people haven't done. It's people have done things that I haven't done. But it's interesting to me to see some of how that kind of balances out, even with interactions with some friends that I have and interactions in different avenues, that I can see some of those parts of my life. I still have interest in going and seeing and exploring and doing things in different places, but not like I used to. And don't get me wrong, this is actually not going to bring any kind of changes to Not Your Average Globetrotter. There's a reason why this channel is called Not Your Average Globetrotter, because it's not just globetrotting. It's not just getting out there. It's being and living in another part of the world is an aspect of that. It's that's why there are so many discussions on this channel about living abroad and the realities of living abroad. But again, there still will be some out and about travel content and walking around videos coming up. But this now brings me back to what I was talking about earlier in the episode. Did I actually waste that time? Did I waste my 20s by moving around the world, traveling around the world? Was it worth the trade-off? Because it's definitely a trade-off, having traveled and going and having experiences in different places versus building up your life. I don't usually talk so much about personal things on this channel, but for me, one of the biggest goals in my life that I've ever had is to settle down and have children. I know, having traveled to different places and done these things, yeah, maybe wasn't the best way of moving in that direction. But a lot of the moves that I've done weren't necessarily so planned. It was like, oh, hey, there's this thing, this opportunity or whatever that now is the right time to go and be in this other place. And I'm not sure if it was the best idea to follow in some instances. And even just as an example, with my move to Portugal, I'm actually not entirely convinced that it was the best choice. I would not change that choice because I'm really glad that I did it. There are certain things that have happened in my life that have again brought me to where I am today and to who I am today. Because always in the back of my mind, I was always curious about living there, but it never seemed like it was the best idea, and I didn't have a reason to be there. And then episode 220, you can check that out for the reasons why I went there, but basically going there for family made sense at the time. And even though it made sense to be there for them, to actually remain there, I'm not sure if that was in fact best choice that I could have made at that point in my life. And one of the reasons why I want to make this episode is because I know there are a lot of people who are thinking about moving abroad, and they're thinking about, should I do this? What am I giving up? What am I not giving up? And by moving abroad, you are giving up something each time. And especially the more times you move abroad, the more that you're giving up each time. Unless you're maybe moving because of a specific job is moving you to this place and there's no real downside financially. There will always be some type of downside, whether you're leaving family behind, friends behind, comfort. There's always a trade-off for moving to the other side of the world, or moving to another country, or moving down the road. Maybe less so if you're just moving down the road. And in my life, I can't say that there was necessarily something that I was searching for, something that I needed that was on the other side of the world. Like some people move abroad for an opportunity or because they want this or they want that. And I was interested in experiencing the world, seeing what life would be like in other places. So maybe that would be the thing that I was looking for. But it's not like you see these videos of these passport bros and they're like, oh, you have to go meet a woman and you're going to this and that and the values, and you're going to meet a more feminine or you're this or that. It's like, look, man, like people are people everywhere you go. You can find whatever you're looking for in any part of the world. This is one thing that I have learned, that there may be certain traits that are more common in certain cultures, and there may be values that are more common in certain cultures, but wherever you go, people are people. And wherever you go, you're going to run into some of the same things that you would anywhere, but it's to varying degrees. Maybe you're going to run into more of X in one place or more of Y in another. But the longer that I spend abroad, and the more content that I see from people who are chasing happiness by living abroad, I don't see them reaching it. I don't see them fulfilling that need. I don't see that truly being met. Traveling abroad and moving abroad in the very short term, most definitely can give you happiness and joy and wonderful feelings. Very few people that I've ever actually known have gotten their true fulfillment and what they need in life in every aspect just simply by moving to another country. Maybe they can find something in that country that leads towards it, but the move alone and just traveling can lead to excitement and fun and great times. But what's important in life at the end of the day? What are the things that a person values most? And what are the things that if you value, even if you value something, does that mean it's good for you? I mean, hey, some of us love to eat sugar, but that doesn't mean sugar is so good for us. And that might be a thing that we prioritize by having a dessert at the end of the meal, but that doesn't mean that it's a wise choice. And in many episodes, I've said that I'm not saying that you should move abroad or that you shouldn't move abroad. And a lot of people actually get really annoyed that in some of my videos, I don't say, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. No, you need to make the decision yourself, because what I need in my life, you might not need in your life. What I'm looking for me may not be the right fit for you. So even though I've lived in all these places and traveled to all these places in my 20s and now 30s, that could be the right thing for you. But I'm not saying that it is. It might not be the right thing for you. It might be that establishing yourself and living your life in your home country and doing those things might be the best choice for you, or doing what I did might be better for you. But of course, there's a trade-off. If you're staying in your place and you're kind of establishing yourself and setting roots and getting your life going and making sure things are a bit more solid, yeah, you're not going to be traveling on the other side of the world full-time, living in the place that you want to be living in. But if you're living in that place that you want to be living in, traveling around on the other side of the world, you're not setting yourself up for certain things for your future from an earlier age. And it's better, in my opinion, to get started at an earlier age rather than later. The earlier that you can start setting yourself up, the more advantages that you can see as time goes on. It doesn't mean, though, that you can only do one or only do the other. I see a lot of people who do full-time digital nomad and part-time digital nomading. I see a lot of people who do full-time living abroad and part-time living abroad. I think both have their pluses and minuses, although the part-time living abroad thing never has made total sense to me. I think dividing your time between different places, it's too complicated and makes it much more difficult to really make those connections, not only with the place, but also people around you. At least for me, it's not the right choice. And I've known a lot of people who try it out and it doesn't really work for them, or that they love it, but it's just they have too many other things going on that they can't really make it realistic for them. There's also another detail about myself, which maybe I should have explained a little bit earlier in the episode. I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but I'm of the opinion that if you have an opinion, or if you have a strong opinion, especially, that it's important to be able to challenge yourself on that opinion. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you have that opinion that you have? For what reason are you thinking this thing that you are thinking? And this is also one of the reasons why I've wondered, was it the right choice? Did I waste my 20s by moving abroad, living abroad? Or was it the right choice? And I can say that for me, in many ways, it was definitely the right choice. And in some ways, it was a less than perfect choice. Living abroad comes with challenges, but it also comes with a lot of amazing experiences. But are those experiences worth it? Living abroad can bring you experiences that you would have never imagined. They can be some of the most amazing times, but they also can be some of the worst times in your life. Are they worth it? Are you giving up something? You're always giving up something, whether that's time with your family, friends, or establishing yourself, or whatever it is that you're doing. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I think no matter what age you are, it's worth challenging yourself on that particular point. If you are thinking about living abroad, and if you've already been living abroad, was it the right choice? Don't sulk and get into it if you know it was the wrong choice. It's like, okay. My grandmother always used to say, all right, what's happened's happened, forward march. You can't change the past, but you can change every step in front of you. I'm somewhat paraphrasing here, but this is one of the reasons why I can't say that I really truly believe in having regrets in life. What's the best choice for me, or what would have been the best choice for me? I don't know, because I've lived this life that I've lived. Could I have had a different life? Of course. Every choice in life you make sets you down one path or another path. I know the path that I've taken and what it's come to. I don't know what that other one would have looked like. Maybe I still would have had this desire for doing the traveling that I did. Maybe it would have been a bug in my bonnet. It would have been something so deep down inside of me that I wouldn't be able to avoid it. But I can say that I'm very glad that I have the adventures, the need for adventures out of my system. I don't feel like I need it anymore. Yeah, do I want to do a few things? Yeah. Do I want to go to certain places? Yeah. Do I want to experience certain things? Of course. But I don't feel that need. And I'm very grateful I can say that it's something that I've gotten out of my system, because I know a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do it until much later in life, and maybe kick themselves along the way that they didn't take those opportunities to go and do those things. And maybe during those times when I was having those adventures, kicking myself about not doing certain things or settling down or whatever it might have been, everybody has their thing that they look at. And this is what my life has been so far. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. A huge thank you to those of you who support this project on a monthly basis. All the links can be found below. Patreon, thanks button here on YouTube, as well as rafaeldefuria.com/support. And thank you to those of you who share these episodes with your friends, and leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Of course, this is an open conversation. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll see y'all next time for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. Again, I'm Rafael de Furia, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.